As of today, this house belongs to us. Everyone else, please leave, said the unexpected relatives who showed up. It was just a few days after Jack had passed away. 10 of them appeared out of nowhere at our house, claiming it was theirs. I couldn't help but laugh. They didn't know anything. They stared at me, suspicious, and demanded an explanation. Don't you know? This house is already mine, I told them, revealing the wish Jack had left for me. Hearing this, they were shocked, their faces turning pale. I'm Lauren Alexis, 55 years old, and I work in the kitchen of a restaurant. Lauren, can you work overtime today? My manager asked. No, I've already told you that I can't, I replied. That's right, your husband is still in the hospital. We should have asked someone else to cover for you. I'm sorry, Lauren. You can go home on time without any problems. I work at a popular Italian restaurant in town. People love it because the food is affordable and tasty, so we're always busy. I used to be fine with working extra hours, but since my husband Jack has been suffering from severe cancer and staying in the hospital, I've been leaving work on time. Jack is 3 years older than me, and we've been married for 32 years. This is the first time he's had such a serious illness. The cancer was found during a health check, but it had already spread to other parts of his body, and his strength quickly started to fade after we got the news. It's unfortunate. Staying at home and working remotely made his health decline even more. He used to work as a freelance interior designer, doing everything from his computer. Thanks to him, I didn't have to worry about house chores, and I could focus on my work. But after he got sick, I had to adjust my work schedule. I now start early in the morning and leave before the restaurant gets busy. I want to spend as much time as possible taking care of him. I often apologize to my coworkers for causing them trouble. What are you talking about? Don't be so down, they'd say. It'll worry your husband. Just stay positive and take good care of him. Don't worry, the manager will handle everything if needed. We're here to help, my colleagues would joke, trying to cheer me up. When I asked, everyone agreed without any complaints. In fact, they even suggested I leave early. The manager was worried about my financial situation, so he adjusted the shifts to make my current work schedule possible. I feel lucky to work in such a great place, and when things calm down, I plan to repay their kindness. With that in mind, I thank my coworkers and sign the attendance sheet. I quickly gathered my things and hurried to the hospital. Ah, you must be Mrs. Alexis. The doctor just arrived and is speaking with your husband, a nurse said warmly when I got to the hospital. Hearing that, I rushed to Jack's room. As I entered, I saw Jack talking with the doctor. Your wife is here, the doctor said. You're done with work? Thanks for everything, Jack said with a weak smile. Jack is older than me. He used to have a youthful face, and people often thought I was older. But ever since the cancer diagnosis, he seems to have aged so much. His once bright face is now thin and pale, and his smile is faint. When he first got sick, he told me, I won't let this illness beat me. But his body is getting weaker day by day, no matter how much he tries to stay strong. I was just explaining your husband's condition, the doctor began, but Jack interrupted. Let me tell her, doctor. An uneasy feeling crept over me, and I could tell the doctor felt it too. With a quiet nod, the doctor left the room. Hey, Lauren, how long have we been married? Jack asked, staring out the window. Worried about him, I answered carefully. 32nd years. 32nd years, huh? It felt long, but looking back, it passed so quickly. Stop, I said, fearing where the conversation was going. It sounds like you're saying it's almost over. Maybe another 7 months, Jack murmured, lost in thought. His words felt like he had accepted the end, and I tried to stop him from talking like that. But he avoided my eyes and continued, just hang in there for another 7 months. It might be even sooner. I know my body better than anyone. He smiled faintly, looking down. Hearing those words, my worst fears became real, and I couldn't stop the tears from falling. I'm sorry for making you sad. I promised when we got married that I'd never make you cry, Jack said softly. He noticed my tears, smiled sadly, and gently wiped them away. Tears welled up in his eyes too, and seeing that made me cry even more. With a trembling voice, I could only manage to say, I'll need to apologize to your parents. When I get there, I'll truly say I'm sorry for making their daughter sad. Stop it, I told him. Once he's gone, I'll be alone for the rest of my life. We used to laugh and talk about being together until the very end. But when Jack started talking like he had given up, I couldn't hide my anger. Don't talk like it's all over. Don't say such sad things, I begged. Lauren, nothing is decided yet. Medical science is advancing every day, and if we look at other hospitals, there might still be other options, I insisted. I'm going to die, Lauren, Jack said calmly. I screamed, unable to accept the truth, but he gently held my hand and spoke softly. I'll be leaving this world soon. No, I hate that idea, I replied, my heart aching. Before I go, I want to do everything I've always wanted to do. I want to spend every moment I have left with you, Jack said, smiling weakly. He started talking about his plans for the days ahead. I don't want to spend the rest of my time in the hospital. I want to go home with you. Lauren, I know you're busy with work, but could you take a few days off? I want to go on the trip we planned before. I want to make all your wishes come true, so please, Jack said, looking at me with tired eyes. Seeing him like this, I painfully realized this was not just a dream. It was real, and I had to accept it. There was no more hope. With a heavy heart, I decided to respect his wishes. I fought back my tears and told his doctor what he wanted. The doctor understood and quickly arranged for his discharge. They ran some tests to make sure it was safe, and the next day, Jack was able to leave the hospital. From that point, Jack spent his last days at home. Jack, I came to visit. A familiar voice called out. Hey, how are you feeling? Ready to head to the other world yet? Just kidding. It was Paul, Jack's brother. Lauren, you're here too? I thought it was just Jack, Paul said, surprised. Since we had time before dinner, I stayed in the room as long as I could to be with Jack. But suddenly, his mother, Paul, and Paul's wife, Lily, showed up to visit. It's been a while, Paul, I said, trying to stay calm. Jack's brother, Paul, is 58 and works in construction. But he skips work often and doesn't have much of a position at his age. He just drifts through life day by day. His wife, Lily, is 36 and very beautiful, but she has a stern look and speaks harshly. She has a controlling attitude that stands out, especially compared to how she acts around others. Jack's mother is 82, but looks much younger and is full of energy. However, you can see her greed on her face. She adores Paul to a strange degree and always looks down on Jack. I really can't stand Jack's family. Paul is always making rude jokes, and I'm sure Lily hates me too. From the first time we met, she treated me like an enemy and never misses a chance to make mean comments. My mother-in-law doesn't treat us like people. She constantly bothers us. To her, Jack isn't a son, he's just a source of money. The moment we meet, she starts asking for financial help. Paul has a big family, doesn't he? You two don't have kids, and you both work, so you must have some extra money. Could you help out a little? These requests for money have become normal. Paul's family, including his mother, is a family of 10. After his first wife left, he got remarried while already having 4 kids. He and Lily now have 2 more kids together, making it 6 children total. Their finances are tight, and they're always asking us for money. What's with all the people here? I thought, isn't it cold to treat your own mother like this? Jack, take better care of her. She's been so lonely since your father passed away, Paul said. Their mother's strange behavior started after her husband died. He had been strict but sensible. When he was alive, the family got along well. But after he passed, it was like she changed completely. Jack's father used to encourage her to be kind to us, but now that he's gone, she doesn't feel any need to accept me. She only talks about money whenever she's with Jack. Before, Paul had run off with another woman and was disowned by his father. But after Jack's father died, Paul came back home with his new wife, Lily, and the disownment was lifted. This town has good support for families, but raising 6 kids still requires a lot of money, and they're always struggling. Jack was always shocked by their unrealistic demands. This month is tough for us financially again.
Can you help us out? Paul asked. What? No.
Please stop. Jack is already going through so much. How can you ask for more? I shouted, upset. Please stay out of this. This is a family matter, Paul replied calmly. That's right, Lily added, smirking. Furious at their unreasonable behavior, I couldn't hold back and yelled again. But Paul just brushed it off, and next to him, Lily laughed, waving her hand as if she was shooing away a dog. Sorry, but we really can't give you any money, I said firmly. Oh, that's a problem. I thought you'd figure something out. That's why we came all this way. Paul replied with a shrug. What a useless son. My mother-in-law muttered under her breath, grumbling as if Jack had let her down once again. I was reaching my limit with how unreasonable those three were acting. So, what's the situation? How is the cancer progressing, and when will he be discharged? His mother asked, but it was clear she didn't care. Given her greedy nature, she probably had some selfish plan. The doctors say he has about 7 months to live. He's being discharged tomorrow to spend his last days at home. I replied, Is that so? As soon as they heard those words, their eyes lit up. Instead of shock or sadness, their faces were full of joy, which made me sick to my stomach. Well, we'll come by with a car to pick him up when he's discharged. He can't walk home, right? Paul chimed in. There's no need for that. Jack responded calmly, but his mother and the others kept talking excitedly. I couldn't take it anymore. Their behavior was unbearable, so I forcefully kicked them out of the room. What are you doing? They yelled. Please leave. I will handle the discharge myself. Your help is not needed, and honestly, I never want to see any of you again. As they tried to argue, I quickly shut the door in their faces and locked it. Then, I immediately informed the hospital staff to ensure no one except me could visit Jack. I didn't want his family anywhere near him. I'm sorry, Lauren. I've caused you so much trouble, Jack said softly. Why don't you stand up to them? I asked, my frustration growing. They treat you terribly and use you. Why should people like them live without any worries while you suffer? I was angry, and though it didn't make sense, I felt like I needed to lash out at someone. I loved Jack so much, and the thought of losing him was unbearable. I didn't want to confront them and make things worse, so I'm glad you spoke up, Jack said. Then, with a serious look on his face, he added, Lauren, I have one request for you. A request? I asked, surprised. Jack looked at me with a grave expression and said, Please, this is my first and last request. I promised I would fulfill it. After that, he entrusted me with something important. It was so unexpected, but I could tell how serious he was. I took the item home with me that night. The next day, before his family could arrive, I quickly helped Jack get discharged from the hospital. We made it home, but I couldn't shake the fear that his family would show up soon. Determined to protect Jack from them, I decided to change his plans slightly. Instead of staying at our home, I asked a friend if we could live in their villa for a while. It was sad to leave our house, but as long as Jack was with me, anywhere felt like home. When I told him that, Jack smiled shyly, and I couldn't help but blush. After explaining the situation at work, I took a long leave of absence. My only wish was to be by Jack's side until the very end. With the support of friends, Jack spent his remaining days peacefully. 8 months later, he quietly passed away. At his funeral, I saw my in-laws for the first time in a while. I expected them to say something, but instead, they just looked at me and smiled in a smug way. It gave me a strange feeling, like a chill running down my spine. I wondered what they were up to, but I would soon find out. After the funeral, as I was sorting through Jack's belongings at home, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, there stood my mother-in-law and Paul, carrying several bags. We finally found you. The neighbors told us you came back, my mother-in-law said. What are those bags for? I asked as she tried to push her way inside, complaining all the while. I blocked the doorway, refusing to let them in. Paul glared at me, annoyed. Stop standing in the way. Move aside, he demanded. I won't move. What's in those bags? And did you bring your kids too? What are you thinking? I said, noticing Paul's entire family was with him. The situation was confusing, but I knew panicking would only give them the upper hand. Clearly, they had some plan, and I wasn't going to let them walk all over me. I stood firm. Then, with a mocking laugh, my mother-in-law said something shocking. From today, this house is ours. You need to leave. I was stunned. My in-laws, all 10 of them, had come with the bold idea of taking over our home. Their audacity left me speechless for a moment. My son's belongings naturally belong to his blood family, don't they? He left a will for us, my mother-in-law said, waving a piece of paper in my face with a grin. Hearing this, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. The ridiculousness of their actions was overwhelming. What's so funny? My reaction seemed to irritate them. Lily peeked out from behind Paul, glaring at me as I wiped tears from my eyes, still laughing at the absurdity. I faced their angry looks and dropped a shocking truth. Don't you know? This house is already mine. What? My mother-in-law gasped. What do you mean? Echoed Paul, both of them looking completely confused. Their stunned faces made me laugh again, but I quickly pulled myself together and went to get some important documents from another room. I returned with even more surprising news. As you can see, I'm now the official owner of this house. Jack transferred the ownership to me while he was still alive, I explained. What are you talking about? My mother-in-law shouted, her eyes wide with disbelief. She grabbed the documents from my hand and studied them closely with Paul. It's true. The house is in her name, they murmured, shocked. The document was official, proving that the house belonged to me. Paul and Lily immediately began protesting. How could Jack not own the house anymore? They yelled. Staying calm, I replied. He decided to transfer the house to me before he left the hospital. He thought it would be better for the future if the house was in my name. At this point, my mother-in-law interrupted, holding up her own copy of what she claimed was Jack's will. This can't be. Look, here's a will he wrote, she said. The paper she showed was in Jack's handwriting, but it had no official seals or signatures. It wasn't a valid legal document, which they clearly didn't understand. Their lack of knowledge made me sigh in frustration. No matter how much I explained, I knew they wouldn't accept the truth. Expecting things to escalate, I asked them to wait a moment and made a call to a lawyer. I appreciate your help. I'm sorry, but Jack's family is here about a supposed will. Could you come over quickly? Thank you, I said into the phone. Paul glared at me suspiciously. Who are you calling? I didn't give him any details, but I invited them inside. I seated my mother-in-law and Paul in the living room and told the children they could play in the bedroom. Soon, the doorbell rang, and I went to greet the person I had called. I escorted him into the living room. I apologize for the delay, I said as the suited man entered the room. Paul and the others immediately looked tense, eyeing him with suspicion. This is Mr. David, the lawyer who has been helping us with Jack's matters, I explained. Upon hearing the name lawyer, my mother-in-law's face filled with shock. A lawyer? She exclaimed, realizing the situation had become more serious than she expected. I got to know David through a friend of the owner of the villa we were renting. He had already been told about the situation. Even though he was only 32 years old, which made Jack and me feel a bit uneasy at first, he was well known among his friends for being smart and especially good at handling family disputes. After meeting him in person, we trusted him completely. Jack and I had explained everything about the inheritance and the family issues to David, and we officially hired him as our lawyer. My in-laws had no idea Jack had hired a lawyer, and they looked completely shocked. Paul and the others were wide-eyed and speechless. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm David, and I'm here at Jack's request. I will be recording this conversation for legal purposes, David said. Unlike Paul, who dressed in flashy clothes, David had a simple look, short black hair and plain, clean glasses. My mother-in-law seemed to forget why she had come, as she was caught off guard by David's calm presence. He greeted them politely, and they quickly accepted his business card without thinking. When they saw his card and lawyer badge, my mother-in-law straightened up, realizing he was a real lawyer. Paul and Lily also looked tense. David and I sat on the sofa across from my in-laws, ready to begin the conversation. David smoothly turned on the voice recorder, and the discussion started. May I take a look at the will you brought? David asked in a calm tone. My mother-in-law's hand trembled a little as she handed it over. She seemed nervous, probably worried that without a lawyer on her side, things might not go the way she wanted. It's hard to twist words around when dealing with an experienced lawyer, and she seemed aware of that. David read the will carefully, and after finishing, he looked at me and gave a small nod. "Thank you. I'll return this to you now," he said, handing the will back to my mother-in-law with a polite smile. His calmness only seemed to make her more anxious. "Was that really Jack's will?" she asked, her voice filled with doubt. "Yes, it does appear to be Jack's will," David confirmed.
See?
"With this, the house is ours," she declared confidently. But David quickly set her straight. "That will is an older version, though," he added, gently lowering her expectations. "What do you mean?" my mother-in-law exclaimed in surprise. "It seems you didn't catch that," David replied calmly. "Yes, the will you presented is Jack's, but it's outdated. The will that is officially valid is this more recent one." He then pulled a newer document from his bag. This will was more recent than the one my mother-in-law had, and it clearly stated, "I leave all my assets to Lauren. The previous will I wrote for my mother is hereby revoked, and this document shall stand as my official will."
What?
"Let me see that." Lily grabbed the will from David to check it herself. The new will had a more recent date, a seal, and even Jack's fingerprint, along with a note confirming that a lawyer had overseen its creation. It was obvious which will was valid. As Lily and Paul read it, their faces turned pale. My mother-in-law's lips quivered in shock. "So, what does this mean for the other will?" Paul asked, frustration building. "Unfortunately," David explained, "the will your mother has is now just a useless piece of paper." At that moment, Paul exploded in anger. Ignoring the lawyer's presence, he turned on his mother and yelled, "You told me all the inheritance would be yours." His voice was so fierce it seemed like he might lash out physically. Lily tried to calm him down, but he was too strong, pushing her aside as he continued shouting at his mother. My mother-in-law cowered under Paul's rage, the scene turning chaotic. Watching this unfold, I spoke firmly, "Please stop causing a disturbance in someone else's home. It's really troublesome." "What did you say?" Paul snapped back, glaring at me. "If you keep this up, David will confirm everything, and we'll consider legal action if necessary," I added calmly. Hearing David's name seemed to bring Paul back to his senses. He realized he was dealing with a lawyer, and no matter how much he resisted, it was useless. He nervously sat back down on the sofa. I turned to my mother-in-law and asked, "By the way, did Jack really write this will himself?" She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Yes, he wrote it for me while he was in the hospital." Her voice was laced with irritation. "Was Jack happy to write it?" I pressed further. My mother-in-law nodded in agreement, clearly growing tired of the questioning. I caught David's eye and gave him a signal. He adjusted his glasses and nodded to me, giving the go-ahead for what I was about to reveal to my in-laws. "That's an interesting story," I began, "but it seems a bit off. Actually, the hospital's security cameras recorded you forcing Jack to write that will." As I spoke, I pulled out my laptop, inserted a USB drive provided by the hospital, and played the footage. Jack had confided in David that he was pressured into writing the will, so we alerted the hospital. They cooperated and gave us the security footage. I quickly opened the video on the screen. In the video, my mother-in-law could be heard saying in a threatening tone, "We'll be in trouble if you die and the inheritance doesn't come through." The footage clearly showed her pressuring Jack, with Paul and Lily also involved. "If you don't want anything bad to happen to your wife, just sign the will quietly," Paul was heard saying. Lily chimed in, "Jack, just sign this and nothing will happen to her, so don't worry." This video was taken 5 days before Jack left the hospital, as they questioned him about his cancer to ensure they'd get the inheritance. "No, it wasn't like that. It was just a joke that went too far," my mother-in-law stammered. "I saw a drama before going to the hospital where the villain looked so cool. I just copied it without thinking. I didn't mean it seriously. Please forgive us." As the situation turned against them, they quickly made excuses. Their words only fueled my anger, and I sighed at how pathetic they looked. If you had just admitted it, things might have been different. But trying to hide it shows your real intent, I said sternly. "David, can we file charges for extortion based on this?" "Absolutely," David replied, smiling as he picked up the voice recorder. "Their statements provide enough evidence." Paul and Lily, realizing they had forgotten about the voice recorder, We're shocked. That means we'll be filing for damages against all of you, including compensation for the victim, David continued. This can't be true. Wait a minute, Lauren, Lily pleaded. It was only Mom who made him sign. We were just watching. We didn't force him to sign anything. Desperate to escape responsibility, Lily tried to distance herself, leading to a heated argument between her, Paul, and their mother. It was you two who offered to help get the will written, wasn't it? My mother-in-law snapped, trying to shift the blame back to them. You said you would handle it properly, Mom. We were just watching, Paul snapped. You were the ones pushing Jack to write it quickly, his mother argued. That was because Jack's medical appointment was coming up. It wasn't about rushing the will. We just didn't have much time, and we thought it should be done before Lauren got here. It seemed like they were trying to speed up their plan while I wasn't around. As Lily kept talking, she didn't seem to realize the importance of what she was admitting. The argument grew so loud and intense, I almost wanted to cover my ears. Meanwhile, the children, who had been playing nearby, noticed the noise and gathered around. Among them was a child as young as 2, and the worry in their eyes was clear. The kids weren't at fault, so I quickly called over my eldest nephew, a 5th grader, and guided them to another room so they wouldn't have to see the adults fighting. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he took his younger siblings to the other room as I asked. Once the kids were out of sight, I calmly turned to the 3 adults. Isn't this shameful? What kind of parents are you? I asked. What are you talking about? Paul asked, defensive. Denying your own responsibilities and blaming each other in front of the children? Don't you think that's pathetic? You're just trying to escape responsibility. Hearing my words, Lily suddenly realized the children had been there, and her face softened with regret. I truly am sorry. I admit everything, not just the threats. Please forgive us. Paul and his mother quickly followed suit, apologizing beside Lily in a desperate attempt to earn some forgiveness. We need to take care of our kids, so please help us financially. I don't know how we'll survive if we're charged with damages. We're done for. Please overlook this. If we've sinned, we'll make up for it. They pleaded, crying and begging. But their words only made me angrier. In the end, all you care about is yourselves and money. I don't feel any real regret from you. That's not it, Paul stammered. We're just in a tight spot, and we wanted you to understand our situation. Do you realize how your excuses sound? I asked sharply. Caught by my words, Paul fell silent, and his mother and Lily looked just as guilty. Without giving them another chance to apologize further, I let the conversation end there. I spoke even more harshly to them. I have no intention of forgiving you. If you truly care about your children, you should work harder to pay off your debts. Everything that happened is because of what you did to Jack. It's all your fault. Why should I forgive you? It's unreasonable. They were left speechless, with nothing to say in their defense. If you understand, then please leave. This house means a lot to me, and I have no intention of living with you. Lauren, please forgive us. We were wrong. Please help us, they begged, but I coldly refused. If you say one more word, I'll call the police. Finally, realizing I was serious, they panicked. They quickly gathered their children and belongings and left the house. David and I watched them go without a word, and as soon as they were gone, we locked the door and sighed in relief. The matter was finally settled. Afterward, I asked David to begin the process of claiming damages. He had everything ready, and the process went smoothly. The 3 of them were charged $50,000 in damages for forcing Jack to sign the will. Unable to pay such a large amount, they tried to negotiate a settlement, but I didn't budge. I insisted on full payment. Because I refused to settle, their lives changed drastically. My mother-in-law had to take care of 6 children on her own, and Paul and Lily were forced to work hard every day. They sold their house and moved into a cramped apartment, all 10 of them, while continuing to pay the damages. Their lives won't get easier anytime soon, and they'll be struggling until their youngest child becomes an adult. In the end, I successfully cut ties with them completely. After sorting through Jack's belongings, I stayed in our home, continuing my daily work. Friends from work visit me sometimes, so I don't feel lonely. Every day, I stand in front of Jack's portrait and talk to him about the events of the day. This was the last promise I made to him. Even if I fall ill and end up in the hospital, I will never stop this daily ritual. As Jack neared the end of his life, he made one final request, for me to keep talking to him every day. I love your voice and our conversations more than anything. I hope you'll keep talking to me every day so your voice can reach me, even in heaven, he had said. After he passed away, I made a solemn vow to keep that promise. Until the day I join him, I will maintain our bond by never missing a single day of talking to him.